smell? Is it you?" Still no answer. He went back to his list-making. That place on Main Avenue, he couldn't remember what it was called. He didn't go in, just stood outside the huge windows and watched those fancy-ass bitches fawn over their plastic-draped customers. The one from the desk came out and told him to leave. His ugly face pressed against the glass made the drowned rats in the chairs uncomfortable. When the fog lifted and he could see where he was going, he'd break some windows. Hurling rocks and watching glass shatter always made him feel better. The last time he hit the laundromat, he used the big neon open sign for a target. Even turned off the sign made for a little extra fun. He couldn't remember if they replaced it along with the window, but he hoped so. As fast as it appeared, the fog lifted. He was right. He wasn't alone. Blevins hated mirrors and avoided them, but he was sure he didn't look as bad as this guy. He looked like he was a month dead and didn't know enough to lie down and admit it. "Christ, you're one ugly bastard." The other didn't answer. Blevins watched the still, expressionless stranger. "I bet I can have some fun with this guy." "I think we're gonna be friends," he said. The other finally spoke. "Blevins, you are my new pet." Chapter 2. Carole. Life with a teenager with an autism spectrum disorder was, on the best of days, quirky. I knew things could be much tougher. High-functioning, low-functioning, it was all attempts to slap generic labels on individuals, and Abby fell somewhere in the middle. Other than periodic meltdowns, we had it relatively easy and learned to deal with, if not understand, the way she worked. There were the non-sequiturs. In Tim Burton's version of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Grandpa Joe is talking about working for Willy Wonka when out of the blue, Grandma Georgina says, "I love grapes." I loved that scene, and so did Abby. She and Grandma Georgina had similar conversational skills. At noisy family gatherings, Abby might bring all discussion to a halt by loudly announcing, "In 3rd grade, I sat behind David Bessem. He had red hair." Her father or I looked at her and quietly said, "I love grapes." It was a signal. Repeating lines from a movie or a book or whatever to mean something else is a common ASD behavior. Scripting is the jargon. Jim and I often found it expedient to speak Abby's language. Fewer words, more meaning. And she always got it. Abby did know, by other people's standards, she was not quite right. She was okay with that. There was what we called Abby's pause mode. On her way to the kitchen, the bathroom, her bedroom, she stopped, usually in the middle of a doorway. She stood stock still and grinned her lopsided grin until Jim or I said, "Hey, you stuck?" "No." She laughed and continued on her way. If we were busy and didn't notice she was on pause, she retreated to Abbyland. We found her stopped, still grinning, but no longer still. She swayed, front to back, elbows bent, hands in front of her body. Her fingers danced, her eyelids fluttered, and, if it had been too long, her eyes rolled back in her head. Once she made it to Abbyland, it was harder to call her back. "Abby!" Wait a beat. "Abby!" "Huh?" "You stuck?" "We haven't had any snow days this year." Her replies were mundane and often of the grapes variety, and we assumed they had something to do with whatever happened in Abbyland. We went with it the best we could. Nope, as far as